All right, so it is 1:02, so we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Brittany, and I am the College Transition and Retention Coordinator for Missouri College Advising Corps, and I also manage the College Connection Center. So today we are going to discuss choosing a major. If I can get my slide to advance, because my computer is moving very slow. Choosing a major and other reasons to meet with your academic advisor. So I am kind of in the role of college advisor. I help students kind of get into college or with like the overall arching idea of college. But your academic advisor is going to do more of like that, helping you enroll and really helping you on the academic side of things. They'll also be connected to your college where I'm not affiliated with a college. So before we start, I will share a little bit about myself. So my name's Brittany. As I said before, I am a Mizzou alum. So I did undergrad and grad school at Mizzou. Recently graduating in grad school in 2017. Something interesting, I'm the only person in my family with a master's degree. So last time I did a webinar, I shared that I was a first generation college student, but I'm also the only person in my family with a master's degree. Um, I'm not even sure if I have anyone in my extended family with a master's degree, so that's a pretty big feat. So I know a lot of you that are listening to this or are watching this are only thinking right now about undergrad, but if you're considering grad school and you think it's in your future, you can do it. So don't hold anything back. Don't let anything think you can't do it, because you totally can do it. I'm a dog mom, so that's Hercules and that's Molly. Those are my little dogs. I'm a Mizzou alum, as I mentioned. I love to cook, but recently during quarantine, I've been kind of like trying my hand at baking. I thought I didn't really like baking as much because it takes a lot more of like science, and it feels kind of like chemistry to me, which I don't really love science. But recently I've been baking a lot of things. So I made bread. I have made a lot of pizza dough. I've baked some brownies, some cookies. I'm trying to think if there's anything like super extreme that I made cupcakes. But I've been really getting into baking lately. So um, I just think that's something kind of fun that I've been doing since quarantine. In college, I participated in a lot of clubs. So I did Stripes, which was the free sober ride home. So I did that. I did LSPR, which was Little Sisters of Pearls and Rubies, which was a kind of like a non-Greek sorority, but we did a lot of service. So I did a lot of service opportunities, but it was still had that social aspect. So we had like social events and things of that nature. I participated in rec sports, so I played rec soccer, which was really fun, just something to do after classes. Then I think I participated in a few other like random throughout there. So there's a lot of stuff you can do in college and participate in. So just seek that out, particularly at your orientation. Even if it's virtual, just ask those kind of questions. Right now, I'm working on a 30-day run streak goal. So I really am into like working out and fitness and doing stuff. I'm a very active person. So I'm trying to run 1.1 miles every day for 30 days. And I'm almost at my goal. So I set a 30-day goal for myself. And I think July 7th or 8th, I'll be done. But I'm considering keeping going because I've really been enjoying running. So we'll see if I do that. And then something that kind of connects to this webinar is that when I was an undergrad, I did a little bit of self-advising. So I would go online and try and look and see what classes I needed to take, and I would avoid meeting with my academic advisor, which I really don't uh, recommend you doing. So that caused me to enroll in classes that I didn't need. So I know of at least two that I thought would fit. I looked online, it seemed to make sense, and then they didn't fit into my grad plans. So I took two classes that I ultimately had to pay for. So I had to pay for those classes. Ended up failing one, had to retake it to replace the grade. So that's more money that I had to pay for. And the other one I came very close to failing because it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. And then it didn't even count for anything, just tanked my GPA. So do not self-advise. Meet with your academic advisor. It's not scary. They're there to help you. They want to get you enrolled. I thought, oh, I don't have time. I don't want to do that. I can do it all by myself. That's wrong. Make the time. They're important. They're there. You're probably paying for them some way or another through your fees anyway. So just meet with your academic advisor. It's important. So now we're going to jump into our objectives. So today I'm going to help you understand how your strengths and interests can connect to majors and careers. We're going to learn a little bit about the job market and how your major might prepare you for it. Understand how your major might play a role in your future. We're going to talk a little bit about like money and things of that nature. We'll briefly learn the role of your academic advisor, and then I'm going to let you guys know some times when you should contact your academic advisor, whether that be phone, meeting, email, that kind of thing. So some quick terms to know. I think when I was originally making this presentation, I was going to leave a terms to know slide off, but then I got to thinking about it, and I think a lot of people think that undecided and undeclared are the same thing. I think colleges like to, I don't know, I feel like they like to be confusing, which is just silly because it shouldn't be so confusing, especially for many of us first-gen students out there that have no idea what we're doing. So I decided to go ahead and include a terms to know, and so undecided and undeclared are not the same. Undecided means you like really don't know what you want to pursue. You might enter college undecided, which means you haven't decided what you want to do. Undeclared means you might know the major you want. So let's say you want to do nursing, or you want to do physical therapy, or you want to do a program that like has certain requirements before you can be considered in that program. That's called undeclared. That just means you haven't declared that major yet. So for instance, a lot of programs have prerequisites, which are like things that you have to complete before you can enter the program. And then they even have a separate application process for getting into that major. So that's when you would be undeclared. You know you want to do that program, but you just haven't been officially declared that major yet. A major is obviously just a specific subject that students can specialize in while aspiring to a college degree. So that's, I think a lot of students get confused because you're going to undergrad for your bachelor's degree. You're going to a 2-year school for an associate's degree. Your major is not really your degree. It's more just like the subject that you're specializing in. It's your specialization. It's your specific area. And then a minor is just a secondary academic discipline. So this is something else that you kind of focus on in addition to your major. However, you're going to have less time. So minors have smaller requirements than like your major would have. And then a certificate is something you can also pursue, and that just validates your knowledge of specific skills. So I'm going to talk specifically about a certificate you can get at Mizzou, but there are also just certificate-specific programs, for instance, at like MCC, JCCC, KCKCC, STLCC, you know, your tech schools, your trade schools, some of those like specialized schools, you're just going to get a certificate there. And that still is important because it still is going to say that you have a specific group of skills that you've learned. So jumping right in, it is okay to go into college undecided. If you don't know what you want to do yet and you are just unsure right now, that is okay. Everyone's going to start with general education courses, regardless of if you've completed dual credits or not. You're going to have to start with gen ed classes, and everyone takes the same ones. It's not like if you're an art major, engineering major, business major, you're all taking different general education courses. You're all taking the same. Typically, it's going to be college algebra, usually a biology class or a science class with a lab. You're going to take English 1000. They make everyone take public speaking. So you're all taking the same classes. And so what that's allowing you to do is get more involved and learn about your interests. So maybe take an elective class your freshman year of something that you're really interested in and you think you might want to pursue. That way it'll count towards your electives that you're required to take, but also you can either decide, okay, yeah, I really am interested in this, or, oh, I'm totally wrong. I need to weed that out. I don't want to be a chemist, or, you know, I really thought I wanted to be a theater major, but then I went to my theater class and we talked about the theater field and how it's changing, and I don't think I want to do that anymore. So you can kind of learn more about your interests and just get involved, join clubs, do rec sports, that kind of thing, and you're going to learn more about things that you're interested in. And it makes more sense because you grow a lot in college, so you're going to change your mind a lot anyways. And definitely try new things and learn new skills. So again, that's kind of where those clubs and things come into play, and new electives and things, but also just like trying new things outside of the classroom. So like participating in, you know, maybe a guest lecture that you might not have thought, or, you know, trying out a new job, a new internship, that kind of thing. It's okay if you're undecided at first because you're going to learn and grow as you go on, but you don't want to stay undecided forever. So choosing a major, there are a lot of things to consider. So I don't want to go too in depth on this because I think a lot of these are obvious, but obviously there's a lot to consider when you're choosing a major. However, I think sometimes we make it more difficult than it needs to be. A lot of times in today's job market, they're just looking to see that you pursued a goal and saw it through. So just because you got a business degree doesn't mean you have to go and do necessarily a business career. So keep that in mind when you're kind of choosing a major. Also, like I said, keep in mind your interests. So if you're really interested in musical theater, or if you're really interested in drawing, or if you're really interested in making films or writing or things of that nature, pardon me, those are things that you're going to want to consider when you're choosing a major, because those interests are going to come out in the classes that you have to take for that major. So for instance, I'm not interested in like science or math, so I don't want to get a math or science major because those are going to take all math and science classes, which I would not have liked. Obviously, you want to consider your strengths and weaknesses. So again, I'm not good at math or science, so I wouldn't want to do a math or science degree. I think it's easy to think, oh, engineers, doctors, they make a lot of money. I'll do that. I'd be really bad at being an engineer because I'm terrible at math and science. I'd be really bad at being a doctor because I don't really like to have to touch people and help them in that way. So consider your strengths and weaknesses. One of the things that I really enjoy doing, and a strength of mine, I believe, is public speaking. I love giving presentations. I love working with people. I think I'm pretty good at building relationships and talking to people. So when you're thinking through your strengths and weaknesses, think of how they can kind of connect into a career, and then think back to how that career can tie into a major. Something else you need to consider is the job market. However, I want to preface this. Just because you are pursuing a major, or society says that major is like, oh, they don't make any money, or oh, that's not doing anything, that doesn't mean you necessarily shouldn't do it. For instance, in grad school, I ended up pursuing a social work degree, and I love my social work background. It taught me so many things about building relationships, working with people, gave me a lot of skills. But the job market would have told me like, oh, you're not going to ever make that much money, don't get that degree. That's not necessarily true. You just need to know how to best market yourself with that major in the job market. So keep that in mind. But also, you don't want to necessarily take, this is like the tale as old as time. What's the word I'm looking for? This used to be the example for a long time that people would use, underwater basket weaving. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that or if that's like a generational thing, but everyone's like, oh, you going to college to major in underwater basket weaving? Obviously, that's not a real major. And you could tell that major's not going anywhere. So you don't necessarily want to pick a major that's not going anywhere, but just because society tells you that major is not worth it doesn't mean you can't pursue it. I know those things seem to contradict each other, but just be smart in thinking through how your major will set you up for your future. Obviously, you want to consider schooling. So what do I mean by that? One of my best friends is a physical therapist. And so she had to think through kind of backwards. So she knew her end goal was physical therapy, but that's a doctorate program. So before she can even get to that program, she has to think about her undergrad degree. So what kind of undergrad majors are going to connect her to physical therapy? Also, when thinking through your major, you want to think, how long am I going to be in school? She was in school for, I want to say, 7 to 8 years for undergrad and grad school. So you need to think through, how long are these kind of things going to take, and what's going to be my next step. Now, when I went to undergrad, I didn't know I wanted to go to grad school at all. That wasn't even on my radar. I'll speak in a minute about changing your mind. I've changed my mind way too many times, but it is something that's good now to be mindful of, because the longer you're in school, the more you're going to pay out of pocket or pay for school, and that can get very expensive. Also just the possibilities. So I was trying to think through a way of kind of conveying this on a slide, and I was having a tough time, but basically what I mean by possibilities, there are certain majors that you're only going to be able to do in certain settings. So for instance, I know some people really enjoy marine biology. You can't really have a very good marine biology career in Missouri. So if you know you don't want to stay in Missouri, then sure, go for it. If you want to stay in Missouri, particularly if you're from Missouri, if you want to stay in whatever state you're in, you need to think of opportunities and possibilities for that major and for that career where you want to be at. There aren't going to be as many opportunities for a marine biologist in Missouri as there would be in like Florida or California or somewhere on the coast. So just think through the possibilities of like your major and things of that nature. I always have loved musical theater. I really enjoyed theater. I even took an elective my freshman year where I got to do a ton of theater classes, and I got to help build the set, and I loved it. I love theater. But one of the things I knew is that I don't want to live in a big city with a theater program. So for instance, I don't want to live in New York City, which, I mean, I love going to New York City. I don't want to live in Chicago, love visiting Chicago. But I don't want to live there, or even LA. And that's where that field is moving, or that's where that field is like where you'd have the most success. And I don't want to do that. So I knew that I didn't really want to do that major because there weren't as many possibilities for me there. So just think through these things. you don't, like I said, you don't have to figure it out all right now. It's totally fine to go in as undecided. A good thing you can do, we're going to talk about some free online tests in a second, but just jot down, do some journaling, write down your interests, write down strengths you think you have, write down weaknesses you think you have, kind of start to narrow it down and journal. And then that will help you later when you're taking these tests. Oh yeah, that does connect, or oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I do want to briefly talk about minors and double majors because they are kind of tied to choosing a major. I did not have a minor, I don't think, or a double major. I did get a certificate, which I'll talk about in a second, but just briefly, minors, they don't require as many classes as a major. So for instance, if you were really interested in theater, but you didn't want to major in it because you don't want to pursue theater, you could get a minor in it, and it just would have less classes. It can be a good way to pursue interests that you might not want to totally focus on. I think I just kind of hit on that. It can help you be more well-rounded. So you're going to learn different skills. For instance, I think if you're taking maybe like a business degree or a science degree or something that maybe is a little bit harder, taking like a minor that might be a little bit softer, or might be the opposite, can help you look more well-rounded. So maybe like doing communications or psychology or something of that nature can be really good. But it can add more into an already full plate. So even though it's not a double major and it does require less classes, it still can kind of like pile more on because it is making more requirements that you will need to graduate to get that minor. So just keep that in mind. A double major is different from a minor because you're going to have the full total requirements for both of your majors. So a minor requires less classes, but two majors will both require a lot of classes. The good thing is you can gain understanding of two academic fields. So for instance, if you knew you wanted to go into, let's see, maybe accounting, you could do business and mathematics, or accounting and mathematics, that kind of thing. But it's going to help you kind of get a better understanding of both, whereas a minor, you're barely dipping your toes in on that second subject, that minor. It's a good way to pair two similar ideologies. So two things that might be kind of like similar to each other, you can pair those up. So like maybe like two sciences, or like I said, math and accounting, or personal finance and accounting, or that kind of thing. And it's best if your future career depends on both. So what I mean by that is it's a good idea to double major when, like, if you want to be a business, if you want to start your own business, but you know you're going to need to work with a certain population of people that speak a certain language, major also in that language, because your future career is going to be really dependent on both of those things. So like I said, if you also, just a side note, majoring in a language right now is a really good idea, because as we're evolving, we're needing more interpreters. So that's a really good idea just in general. But if you know you're someone that's going to work with that population, it'd be a really good idea to also major in that language. It does narrow down your class selection. So as I mentioned earlier, you have to take elective classes, which are kind of just like, I always call them like fun classes. Like I took that theater class, was an elective for me. My friend took an acting class. There's like Harry Potter classes. There's like wine making classes. There's like all these just crazy fun elective classes you can take when you get to college, depending on where you go. But when you're doing a double major, it kind of narrows it down, because a lot of the classes you're taking for one major are going to like double dip. So they're going to count as an elective for the other one. So you're not going to get to take as many fun classes. You still can, but it'll just take you longer to graduate. So just keep that in mind. You're going to be a lot busier, and you're going to have more coursework, because your coursework's going to be more intense all at the same time. So keep that in mind. And then it can add on years of schooling if you're not careful. So because they both have certain requirements and certain time constraints, getting a double major could mean instead of taking 4 years of school, you can take 5 years of school, or maybe 4.5, or something of that nature, simply because you are trying to complete 2 majors in a short amount of time. As I mentioned, certificates. So a certificate I received when I went to Mizzou was the multicultural certificate, which is kind of what this little clip art or image is. And that still required certain classes, but it didn't require as many as a minor. And it kind of, I think, required activities. Certificates can be a good way to just make yourself more marketable. So when you're thinking about like your resume and things you would tell someone, getting a certificate to add on there can just kind of help you stand out in a field of people that might all have similar minors or majors or that kind of thing. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit more about the job market. So I mentioned earlier, you do want to consider the job market, but don't just all of a sudden just assume that like, oh, this wasn't one of the best jobs of 2020, so I can't get that. That's not true. Jobs are always changing. I find this so interesting, but someone said that jobs that a lot of people that are currently in like high school, jobs that they're going to have haven't even been created yet, because like I said, the job market's changing so much right now. And I think because of this pandemic, we're seeing a lot of fields also kind of ebb and flow and grow. So for instance, like public health is growing a lot right now. A lot of people are working from home, so jobs you can do from home are kind of growing. The job market's just always changing, but you do want to just keep in mind, how is my major going to connect me to that career? I also mentioned earlier that, just because you get a business degree doesn't mean you have to be a businesswoman or a businessman or a business person. You could still end up being a teacher, or someone with an education degree can still end up being in the business field. However, you do want to be taking classes that are going to best set you up and connect you to those experiences for your future. So I will just click on the first one real quick and see if it'll open. Might go super slow because my computer is slow, because my internet is slow. But this is just some of the current best jobs of 2020 in the US. And I think it's a great resource because it's just going to help you if you're not sure about something you want to do. It's going to help you see, oh, that's a job that's doing really well right now and is growing. Maybe that's something I'd be interested in. So if we just click through, I'm not going to click through all of them because there's a bunch. We can see all the top 25, and this is according to US News. So you can look up all kinds of different lists on the internet. So feel free to do that, but just know if it's credible or not. The other one I think is from Forbes. So that one's a pretty good list, but you can see it says median salary, unemployment rate, all of that. But just keep in mind when you're seeing these. So like dental hygienist right now is number 24, which obviously everyone has to get their teeth cleaned at some point. But nowhere on here does it tell you how much schooling you need to do or things of that. It does say, depending on the state, what setting they're practicing in and what service they're providing, dental hygienists may need to be supervised by a dentist. So do keep that in mind. Thinking about how, like I said, schooling, dental hygienist, you don't just go to that for 2 years and then you're a dental hygienist. So keep that in mind. Those are things that can take a little bit longer. I'm not going to click through this whole list. You can look at that more later. But I did want you to just kind of have that, take a look and see what that looks like. All right, so moving on. Oh, and then there is this graphic over here. This just kind of tells you majors. So like political science is a major, and then it shows you like best jobs. So I actually thought this was kind of interesting because I think sometimes, let me pause for a water break. I think sometimes we get in our heads, political science, oh, you can only be a politician. But that's not true. There are a lot of different career fields that fall under majors. So this is kind of a cool graphic. It shows, the major at the top, so economics, and then it shows different careers, and it also shows some different salaries you might get. So that's just kind of a cool graphic. And again, you can look all this stuff up very easily on the internet. All right, so what if I change my mind? So this is where I'll pause for a quick little soapbox and story. It is okay to change your mind and change your major. It is okay to change your mind and change your major. You don't want to be stuck in a major that you're not going to like or that isn't going to connect you to the future you want. So keep that in mind. I'm going to list out how many times I changed my major. So I went into college as a broadcast journalist. And now, let me just tell you, that would have been a lot of fun. I always wanted to be on the radio. I thought that just would be so cool, just be talking and doing music and all kinds of stuff. So I went into school as a broadcast journalism major. Before I even started any classes, I switched to communications because I was like, communications is going to make me more well-rounded. Like back when I started school, I don't know if this is still true, but communications was the degree that like everyone got because you could do anything with it. It was just so broad and so general. So I was like, I'm going to do communications. Well, then I got to thinking, you know what? If I do communications, I feel like I'm going to be stuck behind a desk all day. And I don't want to be sitting at a desk all day. That's really boring. You know what I want to do is teaching. I love kids. I've had a lot of experience working with kids. I'm going to do teaching. So I did elementary education. So I think that was around my end of freshman year, early sophomore year. I switched to elementary ed. I was really enjoying elementary ed, but it was kind of difficult. And the more I work with kids, the more I was like, you know what? I think I want to actually do high school because high school is going to be a lot more interesting and I can focus in more on a subject. And by this time, I was really starting to enjoy cooking and nutrition. And so I was like, family and consumer sciences, that's what I want to do. Family and consumer sciences high school teacher. So I changed my major again. So we're up to 4 times. I really enjoyed that field again, but I decided I just didn't really want to be in the education field. I had an experience where I worked with some students in a teen leadership program and I really enjoyed it. And I took on more of a mentorship role and I got to work with other people that were in the social work field. So at that point, I was thinking, you know what? I want to go to graduate school. So what can help me get to graduate school and get me out of grad school or undergrad school quickly? So I switched my major one more time to general studies. So let me just tell you quick about general studies. Loved my degree. It was awesome. I think more people should get a general studies degree or an interdisciplinary studies degree. But general studies is kind of the catch-all when you're running out of time, you need to graduate. You can just toss everything into it. You have 3 focus areas and out pops a major. So I love general studies for that reason because you can put a lot of different things into it. But at the time when I was pursuing it, I just wanted to graduate and get out of there so I could get on to my master's of social work and my master's of public health. So I changed my major 5 times and it did end up taking me 5 years to graduate undergrad, which I don't recommend because it cost me more money. But in the long run, it's okay because now I'm much more enjoying what I'm doing. I really enjoy working with students. I enjoy my social work background. Like I said, general studies was a great degree to get because it kind of pieced a bunch of stuff together. So I would not change it. But some things you want to know if you're changing your mind, and something that I should have kept in mind all along instead of kept switching and kept changing, was to review the requirements of the major you want to switch and see how current classes can fit in. Now, when I say that, I mean with your academic advisor. Don't do this by yourself. But look and see if there are classes that you've already taken that can still count as requirements towards your next major, because any requirements that aren't fulfilled and that you still have to complete are going to take more time to do. And that's what ends up adding on years or more semesters to your college. Discuss it with your academic advisor. Maybe you don't want to totally change, but you want to consider adding it as a minor or double major. As I'm talking about this, I totally just remember that I definitely got a human development and family sciences minor because I had all the classes for it, so it just made sense, which again, I also really enjoyed. And then understand the impact on financial aid. So if you are having to extend longer or take more classes or things of that nature because you're changing your major, just understand how that is influencing your financial aid availability or scholarships. Particularly, maybe you're getting a scholarship that's merit-based on a certain major. Just make sure you understand how that's going to impact your major. So as I mentioned, it's totally okay to change your mind and change your major. You don't want to be stuck in something you don't want to do, but just think through everything. You don't want to make a rash decision and just jump into something new. So these are some free online tests. I'm actually not going to click on these, but if you want to take a screen grab or whatever, you can do that so you can find them later. The Agile Work Profiler is actually done by a company or a foundation out in Kansas City, and I've taken it and my results are to the right of my screen. So it says innovating, serving, and caring, developing others. So that's a really cool, quick little quiz that just kind of gives you things that skills or strengths or things that it connects you to, and then it kind of shows you things that connect to that skill. So for instance, developing others, mentor, coach, teach, and evaluate. Those are things that I'm good at that the Agile Work Profiler says would connect me to certain careers, if that makes sense. So I like the Agile Work Profiler because it calls them agilities and gives you things that you're good at. It doesn't necessarily just say, here's an interest, do this. It kind of is a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Personality based, I suppose. The other one is from Princeton Review, and it's a career quiz. So it's a little bit more career quizzy. It starts off with questions. Would you rather do this or do that? Would you rather do this or do that? And later it gets into, do you think this is better or this is better? They both each take about, I want to say like 5 to 10 minutes to complete, and they're both free to take online. So definitely seek them out. My results for the Princeton one are at the bottom. It looks like I like to be creative, humanistic, thoughtful, and quiet, which is funny. I'm not actually a very quiet person, but I definitely do think I'm kind of more creative and humanistic. I like to be in like a caring field or a helping field. And then yellow is like my style. So what's kind of like the style or the way that I work? which is the reason why I like the Princeton one, because it not only gives you your interests, but everyone has like a different work style. Some people like working in crazy busy places. Other people like to take it nice and slow. So it's good to know those things as well, because different career fields are going to have different kind of styles and flows. All right, so we are almost finished, but I do want to talk about the role of the academic advisor. So your academic advisor, colleges have kind of done this differently. When I was in undergrad, I had an academic advisor based on what field I'm in. I think schools are kind of moving away from that now and kind of making it more broad, a more broad academic advisor. Some schools don't even assign them anymore. You could just go seek anyone out of the academic advising center. So make sure you understand how your college does it, whether it's assigned to you, which usually if it's assigned to you, you can find it in your online portal, or if you could just go meet with anyone, just understand that. But their role is to understand all of the academic requirements for different fields. So they should know everything about all of the academic requirements for whatever major you're pursuing. They also will help you explore academic interests. So they can, if you are confused about what you want to do, a lot of times your academic advisor can provide you with those tests that I just talked to you about. They can provide you with tests similar to that to help you kind of explore academic interests. They'll identify resources for additional information and support. So if you are starting to struggle in your classes and your academic advisor, usually they'll know that because they have access to your grades, they can kind of help you get more support. So they'll connect you to tutoring or things of that nature. They'll develop plans of study for you. So I mentioned earlier a grad plan, and what a grad plan is basically your academic advisor maps out all 2 years at the community college or all 4 years at the university, all the classes you're going to take and what it's going to look like each semester. They'll kind of map that out for you and set you on a plan. Now that plan's not set in stone. You're not enrolled automatically in all those classes, but that gives you an idea of if you're on track to graduate, if you're on track to complete everything, and that kind of nature. And then lastly, they will refer you to other offices for assistance. So if you need help with financial aid, they can refer you to that. All right, sorry, my dog just came out and started scratching. All right, so when do you want to meet with your academic advisor? I think, if it will click. Being stubborn. All right, so I know this looks like a lot, but I really wanted to include everything on here about when you should contact your academic advisor, because a lot of people haven't had an academic advisor before. So I'm going to try and go through these kind of quickly, but if you have any questions, you can always reach out to the College Connection Center. So contact your academic advisor if and when you want to enroll in classes for the first time at that school. So I've been texting with a lot of students and everyone's like, I don't know when I'm supposed to enroll. I don't know how to do enrollment. Typically at most schools, you're going to enroll for the first time with an academic advisor. And then every time after that, my goodness gracious. Sorry, my dog is just scratching away over there. But typically you're going to meet with an academic advisor for the first time to enroll. And then after that, they might let you kind of do it more on your own. But really, they just want to make sure you're getting into the right classes and that you kind of get the feel for it the first time. They'll show you how to do it, that kind of thing. So reach out to either your academic advisor or an academic advisor for that first time when you're enrolling. You'll want to do that again if you transfer to a school. You'll want to reach out to that academic advisor. If you have questions about majors, minor, certificate programs, specifically if you're considering changing or declaring a major. So I mentioned at the very beginning about undeclared. So if you are someone that is getting ready to declare your major, you'll want to meet with your academic advisor because typically there's a separate application process for that, and they'll get that taken care of. They're also who you would talk to get it officially declared on like your online portal and all that nonsense. So that's what you want to do for that. If you want to plan a schedule for the next semester or create an academic plan for your major, as I mentioned, a lot of times you want to do that when you do it for the first time, but you can meet with them every semester to plan. You can also just email them and say, hey, these are the classes I think we had for my second semester. Does that look good to you? Should I go enroll? And they'll let you know. If you want to review, update, or change your grad plan, so like I said, it's not set in stone. Let's say your academic advisor had set up to take 18 credits your second semester, but first semester didn't go so well. You might want to change that and back off, take 15 credits or 12 credit hours, so you can let them know that. If you have questions about the registration process, so if you're trying to get registered, you can ask them. They might connect you to someone else, but that's a good person to start with. If you're preparing to register for the next semester, a lot of times you'll get a registration date. So the way a lot of schools do it to make sure everyone's not registering all at once is they'll give you like a date and time. it's really good that you do that right away when it's your time, because you don't want those classes to fill up, especially if you're getting farther and farther into school and those courses are getting more and more limited. Reach out to your advisor if there's a hold on your account. So if particularly an academic hold, so you'll have like holds in your account when like you didn't turn in the right paperwork or your financial aid didn't go through or that kind of thing. But if it's an academic hold, like your GPA is low and you're now on probation, that happened to me, you will want to reach out to your advisor to figure out, how do I get off probation? How do I do better in classes? If you want to transfer, you should reach out to your advisor. If you have questions about other university stuff or procedures, definitely reach out to them. So where can I get career information? How do I drop or add class? If you're wanting to drop or add a class or withdraw from a class, let your advisor know before you do that, because you'll be able to do all of this stuff on your portal, but you're going to want to know how it affects your financial aid and also how it's going to affect your graduation and how it's going to affect your GPA. So don't just drop out of classes willy-nilly. Always ask your advisor about that. If you're having academic difficulties, contact your academic advisor, because then you might be able to get help before you get put on academic probation or before your SAP policy gets missed and you lose your financial aid, which is the next point. If you want to review your grades or how they're affecting your things at school, reach out to your academic advisor. And then last two, if you just need to talk to someone about personal issues that are impacting your academic progress. So for instance, if you have something happen to you in the semester and it's causing you to really perform poorly academic-wise, let your advisor know. They will probably be able to connect you not only to like counseling or a resource, but also it's a good note for them, because then they can kind of advocate on your behalf to your professors. So we are almost done, but first, if you have any questions, you can always contact the College Connection Center. So you can go to our website. I'll pull that back up in a second. But first, I want to just highlight next week's Wednesday webinar. So we are going to be joined by Justin Light, who is a student service coordinator at the Center for Academic Success and Excellence at Mizzou, and he's going to talk about getting to know your campus. So he is not just going to discuss about what's what I'm looking for, about Mizzou's campus. He's going to talk overarching about like just all campuses, but really we're going to focus in on campus resources and ways to kind of get involved and get connected. So if you're interested in that, you can register there. Again, you can take a screenshot and you can follow that link to get registered. And then if you are interested in future webinars, you can go to our website, sites.google.com/view/College Connection Center. So if you go there, that's where you can ask us more questions. You can get connected that way. You can view our Wednesday webinar schedule. You can view virtual advising, which I'm actually getting ready to hop on in about less than an hour. So from 2:30 to 5, I will be available for free virtual advising via Zoom. So similarly to this, I'll be able to answer your questions. I will be able to help you complete any tasks you might need to complete or talk through plans. So I'll be doing that in, like I said, less than an hour. And if you go to that website, you can get connected to my Zoom link, my personal link. But other than that, I really appreciate you guys sticking with this and learning about choosing a major. It can be kind of scary. It's a big part of your future, but it doesn't need to be scary. Don't let it stress you out. And as I mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to send them our way. Otherwise, I will hopefully see you guys again next Wednesday. I'll still be on the webinar, but we will be listening to Justin Light, so you guys don't have to listen to me the whole time. And I hope everyone has a safe and fun holiday weekend, and hope to see you guys next Wednesday.